Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Spilling the Beans. I'm your host, Chris Bean, the Oracle of all things wisdom. I'm just kidding. There's a lot I don't know, trust me. But anyway, it's this is the first episode that I've ever done on a podcast. I've always wanted to do a podcast because I feel like there's just a lot of things that I want to say. Like I said, my name is Chris Bean. I'm the host of this podcast, and I suppose I will do a self-introduction. I'll talk about myself. I'll talk about kind of what this podcast is going to be like. Hopefully, I can eventually get a lot of people to listen to this podcast because I think it will be very beneficial. I think. Usually I'll be talking about just things I want to talk about, like things that are on my mind, but in each podcast episode, I'm going to try and end or center the episode around a certain practice or virtue kind of thing that if it were to be practiced by everyone around the world would truly be a better place. And that's ultimately what I want to do, because I feel like there's enough entertainment things out there, it doesn't take long to go on YouTube and just find a funny video, funny Vine, you can look up a comedian like Brian Regan or John Gaffigan or something. There's all these funny things, and like there's awesome movies out there, a lot of entertainment options, and I feel like I could entertain you. I feel like something the world needs more of is kind of inspiration type things, and maybe just like more people that are genuine and just like down to earth. And I feel like that's pretty much my personality. I'm basically the same no matter who I'm around. I might change a little bit depending on who I'm around, maybe different around my family versus when I'm around my friends. But for the most part, I'm just myself. I'm genuine around anyone, which that can be for better or worse. I've gotten into trouble being too blunt sometimes, and maybe I can talk about those experiences later on, but that's kind of what I want the podcast to be, is like talking about certain things, certain actions that we as members of the world can take to make the world a better place, because sometimes the world can be a dark place that no matter how much we try, we seem to be rejected and we can't get to those places that we want to be. And so just brightening everyone's day by doing these things, it truly makes a difference. And I have so many experiences that I'd like to share throughout this podcast that I testify of that's true. So I guess in a self-introduction about me, like I said, my name is Chris Bean. My friends typically call me Chris or Bean, or sometimes they call me Beaner, which I'll answer to that. A lot of people are like, "Hey, don't call that guy Beaner. That's really disrespectful." But I'm like, I'm the first one to call myself that sometimes. So I'm 20 years old, so I'm a ripe young adult. Still a lot to learn, but I've lived for 2 decades, and that's a long time. So I have my own experiences, my own perspective on things that I think it'd be cool if the world learned about those. Some of the things that I like doing is I'm a big fan of I love superheroes. I love superheroes a lot. I love both like Marvel comics. I like DC comics a lot. And a lot of people would beat me up for saying I like DC, which I don't know why that is. DC, in my opinion, is the superior comic. Not movie-wise. I'm not saying movie-wise right now. Avengers Infinity War just barely came out. I'm going to see Ant-Man and the Wasp in a couple weeks. That's going to be really awesome. I'm so excited for that. And I'm really excited for the post-credit scenes, if all you Marvel fans know what I mean by that, of course. Never leave a Marvel movie until every single ounce of movie has been shared, every drop of movie. But I love superheroes. I could go into why I love certain superheroes so much. Like, oh man, Captain America, Iron Man, Superman. Oh man, I just love those superheroes a ton. And I could go in depth on why I love them so much, but maybe we'll get talking about that eventually. My favorite color is brown, which is, that's typically not people's favorite color. I don't think I know a single person. Like, I don't know, I've never spoken to anyone and known that their favorite color was brown. Because a lot of people are like, well, brown, that's such a lame color. I mean, it's like the color of poop, I'm like, okay, well, there's other things that are the color brown too, All I have to say usually is like, well, chocolate is brown. And what would you do without chocolate? And they're like, oh, okay, I guess you're right. And there's cool things that are brown. Like, we got wood. You know how many things are made of wood? A lot of things. And trees, there's so many trees that are brown. Like, this world would be super lame without trees, I can't even think of a world without trees, that sounds so stupid, but like, think about it. Like, the trees are so beautiful. You look at like a forest, if you like going to national forests and things, you totally understand what I'm talking about. And trees are awesome. Like, they got the sequoias in California. Like, those are super tall and amazing trees. Some of them been alive for thousands of years, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, okay, so me talking about trees right now is an example of how, on pretty much any subject, I have something to say about it. Whether or not I've thought about it, chances are that I'll have an opinion about it. I'm kind of new at this podcast stuff, so as I do this podcast stuff, I'll do this recording and I'll probably like burp and hopefully not other things. And like I'll take sips of a drink or something. I'll have to edit those out, but or maybe I'll leave this one in right here. That was a really gross noise I made. I don't know if by the time you're listening to this episode that I've edited out or not. I'm not sure if I have yet, but we'll see. Anyway, I'm a big fan of video games. I'm kind of a nerd on that. I like to. I mean, I don't know a lot of the gaming terminology. Like, people are always like, "Oh man, I was playing League of Legends the other day," and like they'll be talking about these things, and I'm just like, "What in the world do you mean?" Like, I usually don't play those online games or anything. I'm more of a fan of like Mario Brothers, Super Mario Brothers, Super Smash Brothers, like I like the Nintendo games. Oh man, Super Mario Galaxy, the first and the second one, such incredible games. I could go into depth why I like those games a lot too. I'm sure I'll end up talking about that in the future. But yeah, I like video games. Right now in my life, I work at an elementary school. I am the head sweeper. That basically means I'm kind of like the second in command janitor type thing, because I have my boss, who's the lead custodian. And then so I'm the head sweeper. I'm kind of over like all the other sweepers, the other janitors. They're typically like people in high school, like a part-time job in high school. They can make money and attend high school at the same time, which is also what I did in high school. I was also a sweeper in high school, and I really enjoy my job. Right now, it's the summer right now, where it's the end of June, and so there's no kids at the school, so you wouldn't think there'd be any messes or anything. But during the summer, when all the kids are gone, that's when we can take the time to deep clean each of the classrooms. We'll move the furniture around and deep clean the carpet. That's when we re-wax the floors, clean super difficult, inconvenient places during the school year. We'll clean those, just like a deep clean of the school, and it's pretty fun. I really enjoy it. But during the school year is definitely my favorite, because I get to interact with the students there during lunchtime, and it's the best thing ever. Those kids are just they're incredible, and they're really fun to talk to and speak with, and it's cool to be like an adult that will be their friend, because this particular elementary school, it's in a poorer area of the community that I live in, and so not a lot. They don't have that, like they're poor, or some of them don't have the best family life, and so it's good to just like be their friend and listen to what they have to say, because I mean, kids have things to say too. I mean, they're still really they're still growing and developing. So I mean, I wouldn't want a kid tell me how to have a budget or something, because my guess is they wouldn't be too experienced at that. But I mean, they have emotions and they have feelings, and that they have to express them sometimes. And so it's good to be able to sit down with them and listen to what they have to say and make them feel good, compliment them on things. And I love that aspect of my job. It's easily my favorite. And also, I mean, cleaning is just, I kind of enjoy cleaning. I mean, I can't say I'm the best at cleaning at my own house. I'm living with my parents right now, just because, I'm too poor to like live anywhere else right now. And I'm not married or anything. Although I'm sure when I get married, we'll probably be living with someone's parents for the first little while, let's be honest. But anyway, that's my job. I really enjoy it. Something about me religious, on the religious aspect of people's lives, is I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And for those that don't know, or that haven't heard of that church, I'm sure you've heard of the term Mormon. Yeah, I'm a Mormon. The reason we have the nickname Mormon, I'm sure as most people around the world know, is that we have so we have a set of scriptures that's called the Book of Mormon, which we believe to be in addition to the Bible. The King James version of the Bible is the one that the LDS Church, that's the one we refer to and use. So I'm sure many times throughout the podcast I'll talk about my beliefs as a member of the church, and I'm not going to go too deep doctrinally when it comes to me talking about my religion, just because I'd like people of other faiths to listen to this podcast too. Like, I don't want this to just be restricted to members of the LDS Church. I mean, of course, I'll share my beliefs and what I have to say about that. But anyone, I want this to be any faithed person friendly. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want anyone to be able to listen to this and have a good, enjoyable experience. I absolutely love being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I have a very strong belief in Jesus Christ. I truly believe that He loves everyone on earth, that he wants us to be happy, and that's just, that's one of the most amazing things ever. I just, somebody so powerful wanting us to be happy. Like, in our church, we believe that Jesus Christ performed a sacrifice so that we can be forgiven of any sins that we commit, or like any struggles we're going with. We can tap into the power of His sacrifice, so to speak, and be able to endure through any struggles that we find ourselves enduring. And I guess that leads me to talk about another thing about me, is I have a lot of mental health struggles. I suffer from chronic depression. That's not very, it's not very fun. For those that don't really know what it's like, it's really, it's not very fun. It's kind of like, I mean, there's many different types, but the kind that I experience is just, I won't be feeling motivated to do anything. I won't feel very good about myself. It's really hard for me to feel happy, and it's for no reason at all. It's my brain just decided to make me unhappy that day, and it can be very unpleasant. But I've also learned to really get myself to do those things that truly make me happy, and That's something I'd like to share throughout this podcast, is those things that make me happy. And so I can overcome that that obstacle in my life, the depression I experience, because I know how to handle it. And I mean, it's not always easy. Just because I know maybe how to overcome it doesn't take away the difficulty necessarily. But it's very possible. And anyone that's struggling with like depression or any sort of struggle in your life, I hope that you know that it's going to be okay. Like it doesn't seem like it at all. I know the feeling of you just can't seem to feel hope, or you can't see any hope or anything. You can't see for yourself how things could get better. But things will. If you keep trying, if you keep doing your best, you'll be able to get through it. And I mean, obviously it's easier said than done, but I promise with all my heart that don't give up, and you keep going forward, keep doing your best. Something that one of my friends in high school taught me was that if you do your best, the Lord will do the rest. And she's also a member of the LDS Church. And that's basically saying, if you do everything in your power to make the situation better, if you do your very best to make a positive outcome, to not give up, to keep going, then God he'll make up the difference. He'll do the rest. And I've felt that so many times in my life, where I felt like giving up, but because I kept going, I felt blessed. I felt like I was strengthened. I mean, I have so many experiences about that. I'll get talking about that eventually, I'm sure. But another thing I also experience is anxiety. I experience a lot of anxiety. I probably don't sound like I experience these things as I'm speaking right now. It actually took a lot of courage for me to record myself for this first episode, just because some things I was worrying about were, what if people don't like it? Or, what if people think I'm weird or something? And, just all these kind of self-doubts, or I'm being too critical of myself, things like that. And that's possible. I'm sure people think I'm weird. I mean, I know I'm weird. People are definitely going to think I'm weird, so don't worry about that. But and if people don't like this podcast, that's right. I mean, that's right. I hope that's not correct, that people just won't like it. No, what I mean is it's all right if people don't like this, just because I'm being myself. And what more could people want, And I know podcasts aren't for everybody, and maybe the things I have to say don't interest them. That's fine, Fortunately, I've discovered a way for me to get a podcast out where it really doesn't cost me too much. I mean, I had a phone already and that's what I'm using to record this on. I ordered a pretty good microphone for fairly cheap, and I mean, other than that, I'm just spending my time talking about things I want to discuss. So anyway, back to anxiety. I told those things that I just described to myself, and I was able to overcome that. And now I'm here. I'm speaking. But there's a lot of things I stress out about. What am I going to do for school? Am I, or dating? Dating is so freaky. If you're listening to this and you're in high school, I mean, you probably understand what I mean. I mean, dating in high school is different than dating after high school. Typically, usually you go on dates to just have fun in high school, and build friendships. And then afterwards, you'll be dating just to reach something greater. And I'm dating to eventually find someone I will marry, and someone I'll live with and spend eternity together. That's what we believe in the LDS Church, is that we can get sealed together in these temples that we've built, and we can live with each other for eternity. And that just sounds like the most amazing thing. Like to have somebody that you love so much and care about so much, to be able to live with them forever. That just sounds like the most incredible thing ever. I had an uncle who got married recently, and he's a little older, and like I'd say he's above the average age of people getting married. And he really wanted to get married for a while, and as I saw him get married, see him become sealed to his wife, it was just an amazing thing. You could tell, just like he was so happy that he was able to find someone that he loved so much, and he was going to spend eternity with this person. And I don't entirely understand eternity. Like, I mean, some people might think like, well, eternity, like forever, that get a little boring, don't you think? I don't understand entirely how eternity works. I just know that it's something I want. I have faith that if I do my best, then I'll be able to receive those eternal blessings, and I'll be so grateful for that. And so I'm excited to see how that is for me eventually when I get married. So yes, anxiety. Another thing, I'm deathly afraid of spiders. So afraid of spiders. It's not funny at all. I mean, actually, it's pretty hilarious, but spiders freak me out. I don't know why an extra pair of legs and more eyes makes a bug scarier. I don't know why. But they're oh man, just thinking about them, I get this feeling. It goes up my spine and just like peaks at the top of my spine and just like tingles. It's so oh man, they're so creepy. In fact, here's a story. The other day, I had a bag of laundry on the floor that I needed to put away. So I put the bag on my bed, and I like sat on my bed, which is near my dresser, and I was putting my clothes away, and I noticed there's this weird thing in the bag, and I kind of moved the sock, and it's this disgusting huge spider. I mean, huge for Utah, which is where I live. It was, I'd say it's about the size of, it was probably about the size of a half. You know, to be honest, I didn't actually see the whole thing. I just saw part of it and I fled. But it was this big red woodlouse hunter spider. I believe that's what they're called. And it was so gross. And so I got my sister. I said, look, you've got to get this spider out of my room. I can't do it. It's so gross. And so yeah, she goes, but I guess it had crawled from the time I went and got my sister to when we got back to my room for her to get it. I guess the spider had crawled underneath my blankets. And so eventually, since she couldn't find it under my laundry or in my blankets, she had to take the blankets off my bed into the hallway, like shake them out until the spider came out. And I think she was doing that for like 20 minutes until finally she noticed it was crawling into my sister's room. So she got a jar and took care of that. But it was disgusting. Like, I was completely immobilized when I saw it. And I've always been afraid of spiders. I don't know why that is. Like snakes, I could hold a snake. I could hold a snake, like a huge, like harmless, because I want to get bit and die. like a big, I could hold a corn snake. I'd hold like an anaconda if it wouldn't kill me. I think snakes are cute, to be honest. But spiders, I can't do that. Cannot do that. Speaking of my sisters, I have 4 younger sisters. Those are all my siblings. It's me and then 4 younger sisters. So it's been kind of a wild ride these 2 decades of my life, having 4 younger sisters, but it's also been great. I've really learned to love them. I love them so much. I have a sister named Megan, Haley, Lindsay, and Courtney, and they're just all super awesome. The thing about me and my siblings is that each of us has a different personality. None of us are really similar. Like I have a few friends that have a lot of younger siblings, and I watch them and compare them to them, and they're pretty similar. But each one of us is like completely different. We all have like different personalities, different interests, hobbies, um, things like that, different senses of humor. Well, I guess we all have a pretty. That's one thing we all have in common. We usually share the same sense of humor. And then obviously I have two parents. I have a mom and a dad who are also very stellar. And I have some great family stories and experiences that I'll probably share throughout this podcast. But they're really, really cool. I love my family to death. I'm very grateful for them. So let's see, anything else introduction wise? I can't really think of anything. I'm sure you'll get to know me more as you guys listen to these episodes, but I guess something that I did want to share is this weird dream I had the other day. It was there's a pretty famous, popular like debater. He's a conservative like debater. He's the editor-in-chief of a news outlet called the Daily Wire. His name's Ben Shapiro. Hopefully I got all those things about him correct. But he was in my dream, if you guys know who Ben Shapiro is. And also Paul Rudd, the actor, who's Ant-Man in the Ant-Man films. The second Ant-Man film is coming out this next month. I think they were both in the dream. I can't remember the Ben Shapiro part really well, but he was in my dream, and I was like, man, this is crazy. And then, but with Paul Rudd, it felt so real. It was such a crazy dream. I have very lucid dreams. Typically, I can choose what I do in my dreams, like, and that's usually a sign of anxiety, which makes sense. So, like in my dreams before, I've been in a scenario where there's a lot of stormtroopers from like Star Wars that are coming to attack me. And so I'll give myself an Iron Man suit from like the Marvel comics. And it's like, that was awesome. I just gave myself an Iron Man suit. I'm flying around, blasting the stormtroopers. Like, what an awesome dream. Like, that would make for a good video game. Marvel and Star Wars crossover, which, I mean, Disney owns both of them, so that could happen. It really shouldn't, though. Like, that's immoral, in my opinion, to mix Star Wars and any superheroes. But anyway, so in this dream with Paul Rudd, I was randomly selected to be like one of the characters in the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie. And I got to meet Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, who's also in that, Lawrence Fishburne, Michael Douglas, a ton of famous actors that are in it. I was talking with them. It was so cool. And I was saying funny lines that were going to be in this movie, and the people in the crew were clapping, and it was so cool. Like, I was a star. It was, and just like, I'd pay a lot of money to just like eat lunch with Paul Rudd. Like, I think he's such a cool person. But that was kind of a random dream. Another thing I wanted to share was yesterday, actually. I drove to a candy shop called Poppin' Sweets with my dad and two of my sisters. And, well, let's see. So we just left the candy shop, and we were headed to a Walmart that was close by. So we didn't need to get back on Main Street or anything. We drove from like store to store, basically, if you get what I'm saying. And we were driving by a Home Depot on the way to Walmart, and you have to kind of slow down in like front of the store, because there's a lot of people walking. And so we're driving pretty slow, and the windows were down because it was really hot. And as we were driving, we passed by this guy that was talking to this employee that was helping him carry stuff to his car. And he was totally like this, like, cowboy, kind of redneck type guy. At least that was the vibe we were getting. And we didn't hear the conversation, but we just heard him say, "Well, that's not what I wanted, but that worked," just like his redneck voice. And we didn't know the context or anything, but I heard that and I was just thinking, man, that guy must have a good life, you know? Like he he was totally fine with not getting what he wanted in that case, and he found a way to make it work, you know? And I feel like I thought about that. Like that really hit me. Like, you know, that's really how life is. I'd say a lot of the time we don't get what we want, you know? And I'm not just talking about like we go to Burger King and get a Whopper and they like forgot the mushrooms or whatever you have on your burger. Like, I'm talking like lots of things in life. Like, you didn't get the job that you wanted. You didn't pass the test that you really thought you were going to do well on. You know, a relationship didn't work out. You know, there's so many things in life that like it just doesn't go the way we want. And that can be really difficult sometimes. Something I truly believe in is that things will work out no matter how they seem. Like, I mean, I've seen so many stories, like it just looks so bleak for somebody, yet they were able to work around it. They were able to grow from the struggles they were experiencing, and they were ultimately better off because of that. And like a good example is my mother. She has it's kind of like a job in our church. It's not like a job. It's volunteer. We don't get paid for any of this stuff. No one gets paid in the Mormon church to do anything. Not even like the president of the church. But anyway, she has what's called a calling, you know, where she's kind of assigned to do certain things over our ward, our congregation that we meet with each week. And her particular responsibilities can be very strenuous, you know, and sometimes my mom stresses out about a lot of those things, and sometimes she doesn't know what to do, but she doesn't let that stop her. She continues to do her best in the thing that she's been assigned to do, and it always works out. It's never been like, oh, well, I kept doing my best and then it just like, it just didn't work out, you know? Like, whether or not the thing got accomplished, things were always ended up okay. And I think, and that's an interesting thing to talk about also, is that even if we do our best and things still don't work out, it's not because we failed. If we did our best at whatever it is, we've succeeded no matter what the outcome is. Like, even if you failed a test, if you did everything in your power to prepare and you still failed, you may have failed the test per se, but you didn't fail at doing your best. You succeeded with flying colors, and that's something to be proud of. And anyway, sometimes stressful things happen in our congregation, our ward, like people pass away, and so since my mom has kind of a leadership position, she has to help with like the funerals and stuff, and that can be very stressful. And obviously that's not anything anybody wants, you know. Nobody wants somebody to pass away unexpectedly, or nobody wants the burdens that come with preparing for a funeral. And I know that's certainly something my mom hasn't wanted, but she still makes it work. She still does her best to make the best of the situation, and ultimately it's paid off. Like, I've heard from multiple accounts that my mom is the best, you know, and I just tell them, well, yeah, I knew that before it was cool. Like, I know my mom is the best. She's a fantastic example. She also struggles with anxiety and depression, and as one of my church leaders says, out of just sheer grit, she endures and does her best. She doesn't let anything stop her. And that's definitely something I need to work on, but that's something I love about my mom. Also, I guess something I should say about myself is that if sometimes I'm just talking and I'm kind of going all over the place and not really staying on a focused topic, or like staying like I'm going on tangents and stuff, a lot of that is just because I think really quickly in my brain. A lot of my brain goes really quick. Like things pop into my head. I'm like, oh man, I gotta talk about that. And I also have ADD, which, man, ADD, depression, and anxiety combined, that is a dangerous combination. um, but sometimes I can just be so scatterbrained or absent-minded, and I'll completely forget what I was talking about. Like seconds after I say something, I'll just be like, okay, I have no idea what I just said. So I guess hopefully that's not irritating or agitating to anyone that listens to this, but just so you know, that's another thing about me. That's probably good to know. Um, I'm trying to make these episodes around like 45 minutes or so, maybe an hour, depending on how things work. You know, that's kind of what I'm aiming for. I guess something I'd like to end this episode on is my thoughts on serving others. Not, and I don't mean like a waiter or a waitress at a restaurant serving people food. I mean giving, like sacrificing some of your own time to do something for somebody else. And an experience I have with that is one time as I was leaving work, I was going to my vehicle, and kind of across the fence from the parking lot that I was parked in, there was a guy. He had a lot of tattoos and stuff, baggy pants. He looked not the typical kind of guy I would usually hang out with. You know, he looked kind of like more on the rough edge of life and kind of sketchy. And he yelled at me, and he was like, "Hey, are you leaving?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm leaving." And he responds by saying, "Do you mind if I hitch a ride to the tracks station?" The tracks, that's like the public transportation that's in Utah. And the track station is not very far from where I work. And I was thinking to myself, well, this guy is sketchy and stuff. What if he's just trying to steal my car, or what if he's just trying to kill me? But you know, I had a good feeling about it, that if I helped him, it would be okay. And so I shouted back at him. I was like, yeah, why not? You know, yeah, come on over here. I'll give you a ride to the track station, no problem. And so yeah, so we got in, and he was telling me kind of how his life was going as we were driving to the station. He was saying like he'd just gotten out of prison, and I guess he had some issues with his girlfriend, and he's just looking for a job. He has like an job interview in Salt Lake City or something, which is where the track station was going to take him. And I was just telling him, well, I hope you get a job, you know, I hope things work out. And eventually we were talking, and I was able to speak to him kind of about my religion, you know, because he noticed I was younger, and typically people in Utah around my age, a little younger, older maybe, tend to go on these missions. It's like a trip essentially to another place where you basically preach the gospel, preach our beliefs to people, and serve others. And so I was telling him kind of like what that missionary service was about, and he was interested in saying like, oh wow, I didn't know that these missionaries did all these things. That's really cool. I said, yeah, the missionaries are great, because I personally have served a mission. I served in southern Tokyo, which was a great experience. I'm sure I'll talk about that more in the future. But anyway, I was talking with him just about the church, kind of what we believe, and you know, and he was going up to Salt Lake, where there's a lot of resources to learn about the LDS Church. You know, there's one of our temples up there. I know there's a beautiful place called Temple Square. You can walk around. There's always missionaries that are willing to guide you around the square and answer any questions you have. And there's a lot of things up there. So in my mind, I was hoping that he could learn a little bit more about my religion through that. But the thing I wanted to focus on was that I didn't even know this guy, And that I could have died. I mean, had that guy been a creepy man, maybe I could have lost my car or something bad could have happened. But I felt good about it in my heart, and I gave him a ride, and ultimately he ended up being a pretty cool guy. I'm not sure why he went to prison. I didn't ask. That's none of my business. Point is, he's out of prison and he's trying to do his best. He's searching for a job. Hopefully gonna spend his money on worthwhile things, and hopefully things will work out for him. But just like acts of kindness like that, they go farther than we realize, I think. Now, I'm not saying everybody has to drive around town looking for random guys that need rides. That was just one experience I have had of where I just served somebody. But even just like holding the door open for somebody, or asking your neighbor, like, hey, is there anything I can do for you? Do you need your leaves raked or your snow shoveled, or do you need me to make a meal for you? Or are you busy? Just like, going out of your way to see if people need anything. And, that's easier said than done. It can be kind of weird to just be like, oh, hello, do you need anything? And they don't always need to be random people, of course. They can be people, they can be family members, if you're a child living at home, it can be like you can ask your parents or your siblings if you can do anything for them. And that's what, I'm trying to think. In the movie The Fugitive with Harrison Ford, that's a great film in my opinion. I love that one. Harrison Ford's character is this person who's on the run, and because he's been falsely accused of doing something he didn't do, and so he's on the run. He's trying to prove that he's innocent, and so at one part of the movie, he has to go, and so in the movie, he's this doctor. He's this renowned doctor, very good at his profession. And so at this part in the movie, he needs to be at this hospital for some reason, which is kind of a bad situation for him because, the hospital has a lot of police and security guards. If I'm not mistaken, it might be the hospital he worked at. I don't remember, but he goes there to do these things, and while he's there, he notices that there's a patient, that's injured, amidst all the chaos of like the emergency room and stuff. He notices there's somebody that's injured, and he, being a doctor, I think he overheard what they were talking about or something, what the doctors were saying, and he didn't think the diagnosis was right or something, so he takes a look at the x-rays, and he realizes that what they had said was incorrect, and that it was more serious, and so he ultimately finds a way to send the kid to the emergency room, and the kid, the kid survived just because he went out of his way to help him. He didn't have to. I mean, it was probably risky doing what he was doing, going out of his way to save that kid. He could have been caught, but because he sacrificed some of his time to help somebody else, they were much better off. And I can't imagine the feeling he must have had knowing that he helped the kid. Like when you serve other people, it's a beautiful thing. At first it can sound like, it's a lot of work. You don't want to and go out of your way to help somebody. It sounds like work, you're not feeling like doing it. It can be a challenge to overcome those knee-jerk emotions, so to speak. But I promise, for all those that are listening, if you go out of your way to serve somebody in your life, whether it be a random person that drops their phone and you pick it up for them, or your mom who's tired from everything she does for you, to maybe a cousin that you haven't heard from in a while, you can text them, see how they're doing. Just even like the littlest things make the biggest differences. There's a saying that members of the LDS Church know. I'm not going to quote the scripture because I won't be able to do it justice, but essentially, what the saying is, what the belief is, that through small means do great things happen. And I believe that. Like, the smallest actions can have the biggest impacts ever. Like, we might not even know what impact those actions have. And that goes with doing bad things too. You can make fun of somebody, and you won't know how deeply affected they are. And so, in closing, just like, again, to encourage everybody to serve as much as possible, serve wherever possible. Do those things that will help them in their life and will inspire them to serve others too. I can't stress how important I believe this is. Helping others to endure through their own personal gauntlets, their own struggles, means more to them than we could ever know. And I know because I've been on the receiving end on that as well, many, many times. People have helped me through difficult times, and I've been extremely and incredibly grateful for the service that they offered. So those are my 2 cents. Hopefully you're all the richer for it. Thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of the podcast Spilling the Beans. Hopefully, I know I can mince words, like I can get talking really fast and then my speech kind of gets, but hopefully you've had a good experience listening in, and we'll see you in the next episode. Again, thank you so much for tuning in to Spilling with the Bean. I can't even say my own title correctly. Spilling the Beans with Chris Bean.